Scotty Alexander, round, what is this, 3 or 4?
Who knows? It doesn't matter. It's always good, right? It's a good way to spend a Tuesday evening.
Hell yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So what's going on with you?
Just trying to keep everything straight. All the balls in the air, just like everybody else. So life is good. Yeah, it's been a good couple of weeks. I was up in Maryland for a little while doing some stuff, and now I'm back in South Carolina. So obviously I made it back on the boat. So this is good.
There you go. Yeah, they're putting my boat in this week, Bobby said. So Karen and I are supposed to be going up there on Saturday. So hopefully maybe at some point I can be on the back of my boat looking at you.
Yeah, there you go. We'll do it Tuesday like this. Exactly.
Although we had
awesome.
We had like an inch or two of snow just yesterday.
I heard you guys were snowing. We got chilly, but not like that. I didn't take my shorts off, so it's all good.
I'm trying to put that spring weather lens on, and it wasn't working when the snow was happening.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to do with that.
The lens only goes so far from reality.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right. So what do you think about Elon Musk?
I am fascinated by all that is going on with that, and it's when you're talking lenses, it's interesting to me how, depending on what lens you're wearing, is how you see him. He's right now that evil guy, as opposed to when he was doing Tesla and he was the world's savior. The whole thing is fascinating to me.
So I was the day before they announced that, I was amazed that, so 2 Fridays ago, we know him as the Tesla guy. Prior to that, he was the PayPal guy, right? So that Friday, he was launching the first private space flight that was going to link up with the International Space Station. And he just bought a giant, piece of Twitter. Mm-hmm. And Tesla was, when you think about what he's doing, you got to wonder, like, okay, so what's his why? Why is he doing that? What's your thoughts?
And then you go to where did he go? He turned the internet back on in Russia. Is that correct?
Yes.
So that they could.
Well, no, not in Russia. In
Ukraine.
In Ukraine, so that they could communicate.
In my head, I was thinking that something was going on because Russia shut it all down.
Yes.
In their area, and now you have all the propaganda, and I think he was also trying to help get some of that propaganda out over there or something. I don't remember, but it's not sure of his why. He's somebody who he doesn't own any real estate. He doesn't have a residence per se. He's a guy that it sounds like he hangs out and lives in rooms of his friends all over the place or whatever. He's so there's so much brilliance there, but again, if he's doing something that you agree with and believe in, everybody's all for him. And if you're doing something that somebody else wants to poke a hole in, all of a sudden he's this like evil rich guy who, whatever, and they start attacking him. It's just, I'm almost more fascinated by the reactions that he gets than I am by him as a human.
Right. I mean, he can single-handedly make Bitcoin go through the roof, right? Yeah. Just by buying some or announcing he's gonna or whatever. But okay, so let's just kind of take it one at a time. So let's stick on the Twitter thing. So through the business lens, I read that he said, look, it's not maximizing its profit potential, and he believes that, whether you believe him saying this or not, but that he believes that he can reconfigure some things in order to make it more profitable, because Twitter has always, while it has lots of followers and it's very capitalized and it's certainly a well-known entity. I mean, tweet is ubiquitous, like we call tissues Kleenex, mm-hmm. right? Tweet is its own word. Just like Google is its own word. Now I'm going to Google that. So, but it's not making money like Google. Right. And so from a business perspective, I thought it was interesting when he bought a large chunk of, to become the major shareholder. And then, the move that the board made was to then say to him, okay, we want to put you on the board, but only if you agree not to buy more shares of stock, which he kind of pretended, I guess, or maybe he decided, I don't know if he changed his mind or whatever. He was going to do that. And he's like, no, you know what? I'll just buy the whole company. Like, from a business perspective, like, does that make sense to you?
I can't fathom the value that he has to be able to, but it makes perfect sense to me in a sense of if I had the opportunity in the HVAC arena to start the secret sauce that I know that works, that I could now help and bring others that are maybe not as well run or whatever that might be. You know, he's just this guy who I think he sees issues or concerns, and he wants to go in and address them without somebody else will sit back and say he has an agenda. You know, so you're now hearing some of the media basically saying that he's gonna infringe on free speech, you know, like Twitter isn't already infringing on people's free speech, you know, and
I mean,
so I think he's so entrenched. I'm hoping that he's so entrenched in what is going on in the world on a day-to-day basis that he sees some of the roads that we're going down are not healthy. And
right. Well, so that's a different lens, right? So we can talk about the free speech lens, but I mean, I thought it was interesting that, you know, and I guess they're intertwined, of course, but you know, the comment that he made was, look, it can't maximize its profit as a public company, which is tied into the free speech mentality. And that's why he's making a bid and he's going to take it private. So that, you know, I guess I'm inferring here, but the inference would be that, you know, every time there's some kind of a social movement, you can't just pound Twitter because, you know, or demand somebody be removed from it because there'll be some kind of a backlash against Twitter as a publicly traded company. When it's a private company, well, then you don't need to worry about all that backlash quite so much.
Right.
So maybe that is just tied in with the free speech side of it. But, you know, he's talked about the edit button, you know, being able to edit your tweets rather than them being there forever. You know, and I guess casting a wider net. I mean, at this point, you have some Twitter employees that are really concerned about him buying the company, and you have the board making this decision to basically do a fire sale for shares in order to, you know, artificially reduce value. And you wonder why they're making those decisions from a business standpoint. Like, that doesn't make sense, right? I mean, if you have a company and somebody offers you the value of your company plus 20%, then you accept or reject that offer based on the merits of the offer and the business and the profit and what's in the best interest of the shareholders, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. And I think that this is, and again, my brain goes in so many different directions. So I'm going to probably keep pulling you out of that lens that you're trying to keep me into. But
no, that's okay, because we're going to go to the other one too.
Well, because the problem with what the board is doing, the board is not looking out for their shareholders' best interest right now. They're not even looking. Like that's not even part of their conversation. The conversation is more almost like they're feeling like they're emboldened to some other larger good or something. And I read somewhere where 78% of the employees that are currently there are worried about someone like Elon Musk or something. But I just don't. I'm not on Twitter. I'm not a social media guy per se. I mean, I do some Facebook stuff because I want to see what my family's doing, and I have a presence on there with my business and things like that. But I'm not on Instagram. I'm not on any of that stuff. So some of the social media side, I really don't understand it. But I can tell you that when you learn that it surely feels like at Twitter, they look at conservatives differently than they look at people that are like-minded, if you will. Now in a business.
Yeah, and I would go broader than saying conservative versus liberal. I would just say they have an agenda, they have a platform, and if you're in agreement with their agenda, then they're good. And the rules are different than if you disagree with their agenda, then the rules are different. And you know, I mean, the obviously most famous one would be Trump, but there are a number of other people who have been blocked for ostensibly spreading misinformation or whatever it is. And then when we find out on the other side that it was the same, you know, reference Hunter Biden, reference, you know, even just now at this point, you know, looking at, you know, there were people who were tweeting about the mask mandates were outside of the authority of the CDC, and lo and behold, now we have a judge who's officially ruled that. But those people were banned from Twitter because that was spreading disinformation or whatever it was. It didn't match their agenda.
Right.
So so let's talk about the free speech side of it. I mean, should a company who has something like Facebook or Twitter, you know, should there be some level of accountability to match whatever our community standards are, or do they get to set those community standards?
So from my perspective, it really depends. So it depends, right? So I think it depends on, there's a moral fabric that maybe society will uphold. I don't think any of those things. So if you want to sit back and there's certain things that if you wanted to, you know, almost like follow the 10 Commandments or something, but you shouldn't be able to threaten people bodily harm on any media. You shouldn't. There's certain things that you shouldn't be able to do, right? But there's certain things that none of us should be able to do in the general sense.
All right, so I'm just going to take us for a giant left turn here,
Okay.
Not politically referenced, but it's interesting you start there with you shouldn't be able to, you know, threaten somebody. Whatever happened to sticks and stones will break my bones, words will never hurt me. So it's almost gotten to this place now, and I'm going to go in a really funny arena. We've gotten to this place where if I say something mean about somebody, that's bullying, or it's assault almost. And it's disconnected from the reality of what true assault is, you know.
And I don't mean I think I'm probably deeper than that, and I'm not sure how to articulate it. So I think if I sat back, if I had a big following and I sat back like some of our politicians do on occasion, and they sit back and say, you know, Ken Tucker is XYZ. And if you see Ken Tucker, you need to go get up in his face and you need to whatever. I'm more talking about if somebody was to sit back and now be able to say Ken Tucker should be killed or whatever. And then we have these lunatics all over the place that now start hearing and listening. I'm more going from that end, not the general sense of something makes me uncomfortable. Or
I'm still going to say to you, though, that if you go and say, you know, Scott Alexander, get in his face, whatever, you know, you just said, I mean, there's a distinction between saying that and actually getting in my face, isn't there? So if a Looney Tune takes that literally and comes and gets in my face, then we handle that behavior the way we're supposed to handle that behavior. And people are responsible for their own behavior, are they not?
They are, but that's where I think we end up missing the boat is then you have all these other ramifications going backwards where, I mean, why are we in a place right now where crime is rising everywhere? I mean, they just had, I think the other day, they just had 2 dogs were stolen at gunpoint. And they caught, one of them were 4 guys came up to a lady with her dog and they're like, look, we're not here to hurt you. We just want your dog, you know, at gunpoint. And they took her dog. Right. And the 4 of them ended up getting caught. And somewhere along the line, it was decided that they weren't pressing charges or something. So what's to keep those 4 guys from doing it again or whatever? And then until something worse happens. But so if we can get ourselves to a place where we understand there is some form of rule of law. Now you can't do that rule of law on the internet, but you do have to have some semblance of a rule of law in society. But we're so conflicted as a society, and take you down another tangent, but you know, we're sitting back and you have to wear a mask on a plane, but we're not going to ask people coming over the border to wear a mask or whatever. We're mixed messages everywhere. And I
Sure.
think societally, that's one of our problems.
My first theory on that was that we can't even determine when you come of age, right? So you can drive at 16, but you can't drink. At 18, you can vote, but you can't drink. You can go fight for your country and be armed with a gun, but you can't drink. 21, you can drink. Of course, pot is kind of irrelevant at this point. You can smoke at 16. I'm like, what? None of this makes any sense, right? We as a society have never really kind of coalesced around that. And that's probably for another conversation. So let's go back. Let's go back to Elon Musk. So is Elon Musk a leader? In a leadership lens, look at it through a leadership lens.
I would say that he is. I think and with the leadership lens, does he have followers? I would say that he does. Does he have people in his stable of influence that anything that he was going to put his hands on, there will be others that want their hands on it as well. I think he's a leader from a or maybe the word is more visionary, right, than leader.
Sure.
He's absolutely
a brilliant visionary, right? I mean, he can
absolutely.
see past all of the limitations and see to the solution for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
and he's certainly an influencer. So I mean, it's really funny to get into the conversation about leadership because, some people say leadership is nothing but influence. Well, you have, people on TikTok or wherever doing their thing, and they have, millions of followers, and they're influencers. Wouldn't call them leaders. They're not really leading. They're just influencing for whatever reason we've given them that power. So
I've never seen Musk at work, in an office or with people around him to find out, is he helping others become better people? Is he helping, whatever? I don't know that. So that's when, leadership can, there's some gray areas to leadership, which you might disagree with.
No, I think it's all gray.
Okay.
I do think the litmus test, though, is whether they're developing people. And It's interesting, so influencer, visionary for sure. Lead, I don't know, right? Are the people around him 20 years from now, people going to say, I'm a better person, I'm a better human being because I was around Elon Musk, right? There are people they would say that about. I'm not so sure that they would say that about him. And it's funny, I was at a, let me ask you another question. Is Elon Musk a badass?
A badass?
Yeah.
So what depends on, again, how do you quantify badass, right?
Sure.
Is he a badass in the sense of, I think he's got a brilliance to him, which to me comes off like a badass, because I think he's always a couple steps ahead of other people. What fascinates me about what he's doing with Twitter is he's kind of playing them right now. He's going to get out of this whatever he wants. He's not going to lose in this. He's going to get something out of this. So he's offered him $54 a share when it's not worth that much at this point. And then the board sits back and says, okay, we're not going to accept this for whatever reason. If that's what they do, what's the outcome of that one? Everybody else that's investing it is now gonna, maybe stock drops. Maybe they have shareholders that sue the board because the board's not doing what's in the shareholders' best interest, whatever.
Right.
So now it starts to come down even more. And now Elon Musk gets it at $35 a share instead of 54, maybe.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe.
I mean, who knows? But it's fascinating how the way this thing is playing out. Now he's coming back, which you would think most people would like, right? So the board supposedly is all making $1 million or something. I don't know exactly what they're earning, but between stocks and pay and everything else, and he's coming on saying, if I take over Twitter, my board's going to be none of them are going to make any money. They're all going to be, it's going to be free. They're not going to be paid. So you would then again, I think he plays that game where a lot of society should be looking at that from a positive perspective.
Right.
He's just playing this thing to a level. I think he's 3 steps ahead of the board right now, and the board doesn't know how to make a decision because whatever decision they make, he's already thought that decision out. He's got another answer for it.
And he's got an answer for it. Yeah.
So is he a badass? In my brain, that's badass.
The dude sent how many missions to me? Heck, NASA just tried to launch and had to scrap the launch because they're still having trouble figuring it out. And
Right.
he's already sent, hundreds of missions out there for NASA, for private companies. I mean, like you said, I mean, we were like, oh, we're not sure if we can figure out how to make communications happen again in Ukraine. And what, gave him 24 hours and he had it working again,
Yeah. I think, yeah.
And it's not just brilliance, it's his ability to look at that and go, when government looks at him and says, oh, the rich people are flying around in space. And he's like, they need to pay more taxes. Here's $16 billion, the biggest single person tax payment ever in the history of the country. It's like, okay, here you go. Because he doesn't, it's not like he, so that's where I think from a lens of whether he's a badass or not, I do think he has his own internal moral compass. He has his own internal set of what he's trying to accomplish, and then he goes about it. And whatever those, he never plays a victim. He's always capable of saying, here's what I ran into, so I'm going to do this. And he started the Boring Company. He built tunnels around, I forget which one in California, but he's got the whole tunnel system going around under Vegas with Teslas in it for transport. So it's funny, I guess my perspective, and I just was doing a half-day thing with a company that I was working with, and I had done a leadership event with them, and one of the people there reminded me that they had put Elon Musk on it, and I said it's okay to be wrong, and I guess I was being flippant or whatever, and this one was about how to be a badass at work. And of course, Elon Musk came up, and that's when he reminded me. I said, well, you can be a badass without being a leader, right? I mean, you can, in whatever arena you're in, you can, have the essence of what it means to be a badass. In my opinion, that's what Elon does, right? He never sees, he sees difficulties, not roadblocks. He always sees a path forward. He always finds a way to find success. Now, is he developing people along the way? I'm not so sure of that, right? Because I think we would see some of that trickling out. You'd see some other people who would be talking about his influence on them in a way that is what you would think of in terms of a leader, right? So you hear that about people like Colin Powell. I'm a better person because I got to know Colin Powell.
Absolutely.
You hear that over and over again about, whether it was his demeanor or the way that he helped somebody to see and become a better person. We don't hear that about Elon. We do hear about, solving really challenging problems, which I think is kind of badass, and this Twitter thing, the way that he's decided to approach this and intertwine business, free speech. I think he made a comment about, look, Twitter is kind of our de facto town hall now, and we should protect that.
Right.
And that's different than just a business model.
Correct.
So, those are my thoughts. I do think he falls in the badass category.
So I think if you're going back to that and then leadership, you can look at a guy like Bill Gates. I think Bill Gates is another brilliant guy, but not necessarily a great leader or a leader. But now so maybe Elon Musk and him have some things in common. But then you look at somebody like Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was a leader at Apple, and when Steve Jobs looked at, if you watch him or listen to him, he looked at things different. And I think that now, while he was quirky as hell, and there was other areas to that, but
he might have been a brilliant jerk.
But he had a brilliance to him as well. But he could get others he could help pull others forward to help him get to what he was doing. I think if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. I just I think we're living in funny times, and I think it's almost like people like Elon Musk are able to pull themselves outside of the operating system and kind of set their own rules. Right. And it's funny to watch.
I sort of wish, though, if we want to and I don't know if this is what road this is going to morph us down to, but I wish in society people could always look through a lens of trying to find the qualities, the good. Now, not every human has good qualities, right? There are some people that are just bad people. It just kind of is what it is. But it surely feels like, you know, we're at a place where we're society is looking through a lens of either you agree with me or you don't, and there's no room for any conversation around whether we're on the same. We can find some common ground, right? So, and you can talk about that with the border or with politics or in business, or you can talk about it anywhere. You know, I don't agree with everybody around me, but I'm surely happy to listen and understand, and I'll learn something from it maybe, or, you know, my eyes could be open to it, you know, and I mean, I think, you know, if society could look through a lens of understanding, well, then all of a sudden you might find that we all have the ability to evolve a little bit more than we currently allow ourselves, because we put these glasses on. It's just like a no, you know, everything is black and white. So in this instance, if you're one of the ones that is anti Elon Musk, if you put that lens on, it's no, it's bad. And if you're on the other side, you're wearing a lens of, we need him to, you know, we need Elon Musk to get Twitter because, you know, whatever. And there's no really look at it, you know, from a different angle to kind of understand what are the reactions that are going to be happening, good, bad, or indifferent, but to decide if this is a good move or a bad move for society, if you wanted to look at it that way.
Sure. Well, it's an interesting, I mean, there's a couple comments I would suggest. You know, it's interesting that one of the effects of social media is that all voices are now considered equal. And in the past, that wasn't the case. You know, when you went to see your doctor was an expert. And so while you may have an opinion, his opinion or her opinion was greater than yours because this is their field of study. And now, you know, if I have an opinion, I put it out there, well, we're of equal opinion. Well, not really, in my opinion, right? I mean, and what you said, I do believe there is good in everyone. But, you know, even at our core, and it's interesting to watch our cultural shift on this, you know, there's a mentality now where, you know, there is no such thing as a bad person. I think that's where the systemic racism comes from. It's the systemic challenges that come from. And I think it, blending those two together, I don't think everybody quite understands the nuances of that conversation, right? So if I do something bad, is that because I'm a bad person because the system failed? And I think that's a really nuanced, difficult conversation to have. I don't have time to get into it right now. But there is this question of, you know, are there bad people in the world? And I think it's interesting to watch what's happening in Russia or in Ukraine and go, okay, so what is that? Is that because the system failed Putin, or is he just a bad guy? I don't know, right?
So I truly think that there are bad people, right? And there are some people that evil is ingrained in them. Now, were they born that way? Were they taught that way? Whatever. I can't answer that question. But I think that when we can't have those conversations, because when you're trying to have conversations on a grander scale, too many people are too caught in it. I had a conversation the other day, and it was, you know, pretty adamant about, you know, the GOP is a white supremacist organization, or, you know, it's all run by white supremacists. Well, that is so deeply entrenched with that individual, there is no conversation that you could say. So my question to him was like, well, you know me. I said, so if I'm a conservative, or if I vote Republican, or if I voted for Donald Trump, or whatever it might be, does that mean, are you putting me in that box too? And I think that we're placing people in boxes all over the place. So we're you know, it's, you know, I might be placed in a box because of what I'm doing with my business or my company, and somebody else is placed in a box because of the color of their skin, and I can be as well. Or, or it's how much wealth you have or whatever, but we're taking,
Right.
we're all part of all these different communities now, right? So my daughter's part of the LGBTQ community, and somebody else is part of the African American community, and somebody is part of the Asian community, and somebody's in the Catholic community, and somebody's in the Jewish community, and somebody, you know what I mean? It's just, what happened to the American community? We don't have that anymore, and now you can't talk because you place everybody in a box. And we're doing it even when there are people that aren't trying to put you in a box, but then they put you in a box. You have I don't know, but I think that's, until we can stop placing everything in a box and everything black and white, and you can't sit, we can't constantly sit back and say, okay, you're this, so now you're white, so obviously you're privileged, or you're a white male, so you're privileged. Well, I know an awful lot of white males that aren't privileged, and you can kind of go through all of this stuff, and I actually enjoy those conversations, but they're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But they're only uncomfortable because you can't really talk about it, because if you're trying to talk about it, everybody's too tied to it. And I mean, I think we talked about it once before, and probably not meaning to go here now, but we're segregation is bad, and we're segregating ourselves in all these different boxes today.
Yeah.
We're going back to segregation again, as opposed to, let's just free reign, and let's free range this stuff, and let's just all kind of move forward.
Yeah, and I think even that is still really hard to get your hands wrapped around. The conversations that we have on social media are limiting our perspective of how diverse the world is. It's fascinating how much, when you get into something that, whether it's, again, on any social media channel, I think there's a whole group of people that just stay out of it because they really don't want to be accused of something.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you have a similar conversation about that same topic in the real world, it's amazing how there's a diversity of ideas, and it doesn't follow the boxes that you're talking about. So you take somebody who says, oh, well, I'm a Catholic, but I don't think, abortion should be illegal. Well, that doesn't compute for people. Somebody's a Republican, and but they vote Democrat for a minority. Well, that doesn't, what do you mean? They don't, online, they don't exist. Right. But in the real world, none of us are really fit neatly in any of those boxes. We're in multiples of those communities all at the same time. And it's based on our upbringing. It's based on our experiences of the world. And I think in some ways we're skewing it, because there is a movement toward believing what you see on that screen is the truth, and in the out in the real world, that's not really the truth. And I think it's the opposite, right? I mean, right. I think I've said this to you before. We've hit this time psychologically, sociologically, we just aren't prepared for it, where you and I can be sitting on the back of this boat with a beer in our hand, and we're going to be happy, and one of us opens up a screen, and something's happening in some city somewhere to people we've never met before, and our emotional state is now determined by that screen rather than the world around us.
Right.
It's never in our history humans haven't evolved to understand and be able to go, oh, okay, so that's happened. I mean, there's a whole war over there going on. People are dying. People are, living in the subways. And I have an emotional feeling about that. But my life's not impacted at all. The people around me are going about their normal lives. And so there's this cognitive dissonance or disconnect between what's on that screen and what I'm experiencing in the real world. Again, it's never in the history. I mean, TV gave us a little bit of that, but not really. We weren't we weren't walking around with our TV 24/7. It wasn't the first thing we turned on in the morning and the last thing we turned off at night. It wasn't where we got interaction with the world. And, so it is an interesting conundrum, so I'm in another community where things are very different politically, and it's funny to watch how people respond, because I'm still me. I sound like Bill Maher now. But it's funny. It's people still want to put you in that box. And so, here's another one that I ran across. I know we're going to probably run out of time here, but I'm sitting at Walmart. I go to pull into Walmart. They got all the, I'm watching all the energy and activity around it. And I don't know if it's down here because it's more of a touristy kind of a town or whatever it is, but there's a lot of fervor around people pulling in. They've obviously made their order online, and there's whole teams of people running around Walmart collecting their order for them, and they come out and they put it in their car for them. And don't think it's good for society. That means that I can go through a whole, however long I want it to be, but let's just talk a typical day. I can get up in the morning and catch my news on this little screen. I can order my groceries and drive in and never have to interact with anybody. It's all paid for. I just click open the pop on my SUV, and they load it in for me. I can go through the drive-through to get my food, and I barely have to interact with the person other than for the transaction, and come back to my little bubble. And I've never really had to interact with the world.
Right.
And I'm not trying to be a curmudgeonly old guy. Contrast that to when we were growing up. If you wanted food, you had to get out of your car, go in, stand in line, and interact with people, and people actually talk to each other. And that's how you got your food. And if you want to get your groceries, well, you went in the grocery store. Yep. Hell, you might get to know some of the cashiers, and some of them become friends. Yep. It's I don't know that we're wired for that kind of disconnect, to where we believe the screen rather than the actual humans that we.
And we're using the technology in a way that's unhealthy, in a sense of, yeah. So here in my office, I probably have 15 people out here that are under the age of 35. So they're anywhere from 20 to 35. Is probably the range. And all morning I see Uber Eats coming by with different breakfasts, and it's all it's constant, whatever. And then all of a sudden Uber Eats is coming by with lunch, and it's so it's all fast food stuff, and it's all whatever. Not that you can still do that and be relatively healthy, but again, the old guy in me who's thinking about my kids and whatever, it's like, that's not where you should be spending your money or whatever. I don't care if you eat fast food. I don't care what you do. Obviously what they're doing isn't necessarily healthy, but I don't really care about that aspect of it. I care about the extra $5 or $7 that they're paying to have somebody show up with an inexpensive meal, which makes that meal not so inexpensive any longer, and just, and I'm wanting you off, but I want people to, don't, the businessman in me should say, that's awesome, because they're sitting at their desk and they're eating at their desk and they're continuing to work and whatever. I think it's terrible. Right. Get out, go, not that you can go read a paper anymore, but get out and go walk, go get outside and forget about work for a half hour or an hour and whatever, and then come back and go at it again. I just don't understand that stuff. But
well, there you are with the leadership lens, because the business lens says get as much work done as possible. The leadership lens says be a better human being. Yeah, and if that means taking a walk, then go take a walk, and the work will be here. The hamster wheel goes on forever. So yeah.
But I do think.
All right. Well, I don't know if we solved any problems, Kenny, but I think we're probably at about our time point that we want to stick with. So so tell me something good that's going on. Let's finish on something positive.
Oh my Lord! So I'll give you my company. I'm up 46% quarter at the end of the first quarter, year over year, in a time when it shouldn't be that way. And what is the only real change that has happened within my organization over the last 18 months? It's leadership at my management level. So we're going through a rebrand. Business is going crazy. Employees are, from my perspective, are happy and growing and doing better, and So that would be the one positive I can bring you from the world that I'm living in.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, you know, I've cut back my marketing dollars. I've cut back whatever. You know, I think that secret sauce for other businesses is if you can create an environment where, you know, which you've been telling me for years, and I never listened to you. You know, you put the
We
right
did eventually.
you put the right people in the right seats that can understand the leader's vision and help go to that place. The people that are working with them are an awful, you know, they're a lot happier, and
Yeah.
I don't have to spend a lot of money because the experience that they're providing to my consumers or our clients is over the top. And
then every one of your clients becomes your marketing.
they
Because
all
they all have friends,
they're
they all live in
marketing
neighborhoods.
for us. So yeah,
Yeah.
so it's in business is fun. Business is
That is
a
awesome.
lot of fun. So I'm at that place where I should be retiring, and I'm really kind of having fun right now.
I don't know that you should be retiring, but you definitely, I mean, we've talked about this. You got yourself from point A to point H. To go from point H to point X might take some fresh blood, and that's okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So how about yourself? What's going on with you?
Oh, so I mean, on my end, things are good. I mean, I have, you know, when I made the shift to what I do now, where I look at everything through the lens of time being more valuable than money. I wasn't sure if it could be monetized, but you know, so far so good. I've got a couple of companies I'm working with that are just starting to really kill it, kind of like you. And you know, they've put in the hard work, and it's just fun to be a part of it in some way.
Yeah.
You know, and they're taking things in directions they never thought they would go, and it's just fun to be from my perspective as an ex-CEO, where I was able to kind of do what you're doing within an organization, to kind of be allowed to come along for the ride in you know 6 or 7 different industries. It's just fun to watch.
Yeah.
You know, it's difficult at times, and but it's just fun to watch them, you know, really break out and start to really kick butt. So
yeah, it was
so that's good. And on a personal level, I, you know, settled on a house. I'm still unpacking, so you know, I'm kind of putting all the pieces in place for life.
There you go.
So that's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Yeah, we got to keep you and I just got to keep moving forward. Nothing but
that's all it is.
All good.
Perpetual motion, which is, if I could just be so silly with it, I mean, that is the essence of Elon Musk. I mean, he took the risk with PayPal, made a crap ton of money, and then said, okay, well, I'm going to do this now, and then I'm going to do this, and now I'm going to do this, and that's it, right? It's perpetual motion and moving forward. So
absolutely.
Well, Kenny, always good chatting with you. I'm hopefully be in town here next month, and we're going to get together and play a little golf.
It sounds fantastic. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, buddy. Thanks
right,
again. Talk to you soon.
See you soon,
All right,
Scott.
bye.
All right.